We're live. This is Literary Roadhouse. One short story, once a week. I'm Anais.
I'm Rami.
And I'm Gerald.
And this week we're discussing Once Removed by Colette Sartor. If you haven't read the story, you're really missing out. There's a link in the show notes. Read it, then come back. We're in Santa Monica area-ish with Sylvie, a woman in her 30s who owns a plant nursery along with her grandfatherly business partner and friend named Izzy. She's dating Kyle, a divorced father committed to helping his teenage son Aiden recover from a crippling brain injury. When Sylvie meets Aiden for the first time, she realizes that his needs are much greater than she anticipated. Scared by the prospect of intensive caretaking, she grows a little distant from Kyle. During that time, she reflects on her reluctance to have children of her own, and when Izzy suffers a series of small heart attacks, she briefly considers caring for him, but ultimately does not. Eventually, she comes around to Kyle again, and when she is asked to help Aiden walk across a parking lot, she unexpectedly enjoys it. They go out on a boat ride, and she's looking forward to the next time she can help Aiden overcome a simple task made difficult by his head trauma. Okay, so what did you guys think of the story, Gerald?
Yeah, I liked it actually. Yeah, that's yeah. We'll come on to onto the details later, but yeah, I liked it.
Okay, Rami?
Yeah, I thought it was a nice story.
Mm-hmm. I really liked it. I think I'm becoming a fan of this Colette Sartor. We read one other story by her before, and she was interacting on our Facebook page. So it's just like, oh, what else do you have? And then, yes. So it was good. I really, really liked it. So, Gerald, why did you like it?
I tell you one thing I really liked, and that is that at no time was I ever aware of the author. Even when I was going back through it a second time and making some notes of the things, I was just thinking about the characters all the time, and I had to stop myself and say, "Whoa, you've got to analyze a story and work out whether you think it's well written and all that sort of stuff." But I was all, oh, this character's that and this character's that, and it was more in the story than looking at the story, if you see what I mean, which is good, which is excellent. And I thought the character change of Kyle was interesting, when which we may come back to, I think, that because he definitely changed, and yeah, I think she was very conflicted, Sylvie.
Okay, yeah, I want to talk about Sylvie's character arc, but so Rami, and what did you appreciate most about the story?
Yeah, I guess similar to Gerald, I did feel kind of immersed in the story, and I always like when you feel like you're in the situation, and yeah, and I was looking forward to seeing what happens at the end, so it was nice.
Yeah, I had that same feeling of just like, I'm being taken on this lovely ride. It's a great story. I'm enjoying the characters. It's just like, I'm becoming a fan. So let's start talking about the characters, since it's very character driven, and it's part of the reason why all of us like this story so much. So Gerald, you were saying that you liked seeing the change in Kyle. You were surprised by it. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure. Really, he seemed to have two different characters. From Sylvie's perspective, we got the feeling that when he was with her alone, he was quite attentive, he was quite caring, a little bit shy, not quite sure. And I got the feeling second read through that he was. I mean, I was surprised. I picked up on the second reading that he'd actually lent her books on head trauma and things like that. So it seemed to me that he was trying too hard to introduce Aiden to her and get her too involved. And yet when she tried to be involved, when she first met him, he was, oh, hands off, no, you shouldn't do that. And you have. So I felt he was a lot harsher with her. And then when we got the episode when he was with her alone in bowling, and the two of them went bowling, I thought there's another side of his character came out. There's sort of maybe a little bit controlling, maybe I don't know, not quite so sort of tender and caring. I thought.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Would you agree with that, Rami? I have thoughts, but I don't want to just like.
Okay.
Yeah. For the most part, I'm curious also as to what happened, I guess, between the two of them. I don't know. Sometimes we like to make predictions, but
Between the two of who, Kyle and Sylvia, or Kyle and Aiden?
Kyle and Sylvie.
You mean like after the story, like do they get together, get married, that kind of thing? But do you agree he seemed a bit harsh at times, either with Aiden or with Sylvie during the bowling alley date?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I didn't see it so much with Aiden, but maybe Sylvie, I could see that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because the way that Kyle is with Sylvie, when he's with her alone, when they're in front of Aiden, and she has that moment where she's talking to Izzy and she's like, the things that I thought were just for me, actually he learned from his son, and this like upset her a little bit, like caring for his son. Like, I felt at times like I really liked Sylvie and I was rooting for her, but I felt at times she was like a touch self-centered, like a little bit, which might have, just like, lady, everyone that you meet, however they treat you, is a result of their circumstances. So I don't understand like why now his tenderness counts for less because he learned it. Like whoever you choose to love, at the end of the day, it's the end result of their like life experiences. So I just found that like a very strange thing where she's just like, oh, now it counts for less because like that's how he is with Aiden. It's like, you're an adult. Like, please calm down. Oh. But I did like that. That took me back when she like said that as like a criticism. I was like, really? And also, I agree that Kyle at times could come off as a bit too stern, especially with Aiden. Like he has to earn everything. But Kyle is committed to a really difficult cause here because he wants his son to be as independent as possible. And so the fact that it kept being like she was just always like whenever he would reprimand her a little bit or try to guide her in how to treat Aiden, and she'd be like, oh, he was harsh with me, and she would wilt a little bit like a flower and would get defensive. I was like, this is like a really tough thing he's trying to do. And to what Gerald was saying, which is Kyle was like preparing her for this, is because he was afraid of the reaction that she had, which she didn't have too strongly because of all the mitigation that he did. The reaction she had was, this is a lot. I'm not sure if I want to take this on. This is a lot more care than I thought Aiden would need. Kyle was preparing her for that. And that's why he was like so careful and cautious. And, it might be that sometimes Kyle takes it too far. Maybe you should just let the kid have brownies sometimes as you would a normal child. But it's almost like, that's a conversation that down the line when she's more involved in caring for Aiden, she can have with him. And like, maybe sometimes just let him have the brownies, right? Instead of they're wilting, like, I'm just trying to help. Like there was a certain degree in which I just felt like, man, this isn't about you. This family is in a really difficult situation. And you should be as understanding of everyone as possible. But I was still rooting for her because, ultimately, if she had decided that she didn't want to take this on, it's a lot. Like, I was curious to see which way she would go without any judgment at the end of the day, because it is a lot. But I do think it's like a story where everyone's trying their best. It's really nice. Like, Yeah.
The strange thing I thought was that maybe Kyle could have approached it a little bit differently. So maybe the first time that she met Aiden, he would let the things go. He would allow her to interact with him, allowed her to do the things that she felt she wanted to do, and then speak to her afterwards and say, well, actually, this is what I'm trying to do. Or maybe even before, rather than at the actual time when stress levels are high, and then to admonish her for trying to do nice things, I thought was quite harsh. And yet the best times she had with Aiden, and the most time she felt relaxed and Aiden felt relaxed, was when Kyle wasn't around or wasn't interacting. So they seemed to be more natural rather than have this rather prescriptive way of what you should do in this situation, which but it's kind of hard because he's made lots of progress with Aiden, and this is what he's done, and so the progress he's made is justifying what he's doing and his attitude. So yeah, it's a difficult thing.
I like it though, and also you're right that Aiden and Sylvie's best moment was when they were left alone to figure out what their own relationship is going to be like. But also Kyle fabricated that on purpose. He kind of pushed her a little bit, like, you just do this, like, just help him walk without me right now. And he knew that she was like a little panicked about it, and he left anyway on purpose. It was only going to be a few minutes, and he knew they'd be fine. But you know, he's forcing that as well to a certain extent, and I think he's aware a little bit of her criticisms, because that's when he breaks out the folder and like shows her, like, look at the progress that he's made, look at him in the wheelchair here. It's a little bit of like, what I've been doing works, let's try again, you know, like. And yeah, he would soften here and there, but yeah, it's hard. Yeah. Rami, do you have anything? Yeah. Sorry, Gerald.
No, I was just looking back at the because I thought, when you said, you know, Kyle sort of manipulates it and creates this opportunity for them to be together. And I thought I didn't quite understand that, but then when they're at the boating lake, he walks off and leaves her with Aiden. So yeah, so he does leave them to get on with it. So maybe I was a little bit harsh about him.
There was also a line when he leaves, I need to find it, where it's basically like she's looking at him to like save her, and he sees it but ignores it. That's when I thought, like, okay, he fabricated this on purpose because he just wants her to get over this fear. Like, he knows like that's what it is for both of them, because, you know, Sylvie's scared of dealing with Aiden alone, and Aiden's scared of, you know, walking without the crutches. And in a way, Sylvie's using Kyle as a crutch in all of these situations. And also it's the dad. Rami, you were going to say something?
Oh, yeah, I was thinking maybe, you know, it's Kyle's personality, but I guess there could have been, what do you think would have been an alternative way to kind of make sure that Sylvie understands or learns how to deal with Aiden? Like, what kind of alternative approach would you have seen?
I don't know. I think I would have spoke. You see, maybe he has difficulty interacting with Sylvie, which is kind of a strange thing to think. But I would have, rather than just given her a book and say that, you know, read about head traumas and memory loss and things like that, he would have said, well, he would have explained what he does and how he does it. And prepare her for the meeting by saying, you know, there are things that there are certain ways that I deal with things that Aiden does, and you know, I found those to work. So I don't mean to be harsh. You know, if I stop you short, I'm not being harsh. It's just that how blah blah blah. You know, just because it seems to be all of a sudden he's changed character from when they're alone to when he's with Aiden, when they're with Aiden.
You know, it's funny, we're talking about these characters like they're real people and what should they have done or what could they have done better, which is to the strength of the writing, because we're supposed to be discussing like the story itself. We're like, no. Let's talk about these characters right now. Like, what did they do? Did they do it right or wrong? Which is a thing that we always do when a story is really engaging, when we're just like, these people feel really real. But getting back to like the more sort of like writing analysis part of it, so there were some really strong themes throughout the story, and I wanted to hear what you guys picked up on. Like, what do you think is like, what is the story about, and how did she layer it in there? How did the author put it in?
Yeah, I think the main theme is about relationships and how relationships can change depending on circumstances. To me, that was the big thing, that how he must have been with her when they were alone, and to how he was with her when Aiden, and also her sudden realization that, you know, sort of also almost like a sibling rivalry type thing, that, you know, she's no longer the center of his world, and she can see that Aiden is the center of his world, really, and she's like a second string to that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I found that weird sibling rivalry odd. I'm like, you're a full functioning adult, slightly jealous of a teenage boy who is like, But yeah. And Rami, what did you think the story was about?
Yeah, and I think within the theme of relationships, I guess maybe priorities and what's more important for people.
So I think moving from that, what I picked up on it, a lot of it is about caretaking and nurturing. So I found it really interesting that so Sylvie is sort of like, she wanted an easier relationship with Aiden, not one that required so much nurturing and caretaking. And the reason she didn't, so there's that whole backstory of her ex-boyfriend. She was with him for 5 years. They got pregnant. He always wanted kids. They miscarried. Then she was a little relieved because she didn't really want kids. And it's because of like the nurturing as well. She doesn't like to caretake as much. And when her friend Izzy, when he has a heart attack, she briefly fantasizes about being the person who takes care of him, but doesn't speak up, doesn't actually offer that. And I thought it was all very ironic because she works at a plant nursery. But she doesn't even want plants in her house right now. There's something sort of very dry and cold about the way that she values other people or interacts with other people, or again, the self-centeredness. Her friends who just had babies, all they want to do is talk about breastfeeding and colic, and she's like, nope, and she starts avoiding them. So there's a little bit. So for her character arc, for me, was from someone who doesn't really want to care for other people to someone who finally is forced to and kind of enjoyed it and starts looking forward to it. And that's what I thought was really interesting, especially because like literally the word nursery is coming up like a million times because that's where she works. And she won't put up flowers in her house. Not even a succulent. So I thought that motif and that theme was very strong and well drawn throughout. And also for me personally, it was interesting to have her reason to not want to have kids to be the caretaking side of things, which is funny because like, I've often thought like, do I want to have kids? Do I not? And when I think I don't, it's never that part. That's the reason I would want to have kids is to nurture another human being. And, that's the attractive part. The part that isn't is your entire life changed, your money is gone, and your time, and it's a commitment for decades. Like, that's the part where I'm like, do I really want this? Like, this is but the nurturing part's the nice part. It's always interesting to see the flip side of that for me on a personal level.
Yeah, it's just true. Yeah, and also, it said at one point that most of her belongings were still in boxes in storage. So it's like I don't know. I mean, does she would? I think she'd like to get back with. What was his name? Tiff or something? I can't remember. Finn, and he goes by the house and wonders about him. So why wouldn't she unpack her stuff in a new place? It's like it's almost as if she considers it a temporary option.
That's interesting. As you were talking, I think she liked a little bit the person she was when she was with Finn. She was forced to, with Finn, be a little bit warmer. Finn made them, both of them together would take care of plants, which she won't even do alone, even though she works at a plant nursery. Like he's also into gardening. He wants kids. She felt that she was convinced, but it wasn't really her internal decision that she wanted kids because of Finn. When she thinks about possibly going in and talking to Finn, it's possibly saying something, I miss the way that we used to be, or and I think that's really what it is. I think there's a part of her, it's like we're watching someone go through like a spiritual growth. She's going from someone who's very self-centered and just wants to take care of herself and doesn't even want to listen to her friends talk about breastfeeding, to which like a lot of my friends are having kids right now. Like I'm hitting that age. So yeah, it's true. That's what they talk about. But I've learned so much and it's fine. So like, and now I can like cross-pollinate information. When one friend's like, oh, they're not latching. I'm like, have you tried the nipple guards? I heard about this from another friend who recently had a baby, and like and she doesn't have that. Like she doesn't have that instinct. And throughout the story, we're watching her grow, think about this, and change. So I don't think it's Finn. I think it's just like she likes the idea of how she could be with someone like Finn. And now I think she's going to attempt that with Kyle.
Yeah, could be.
I might also be projecting just from like my own life, because Sylvie's not much older than me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny, the past 6 months I've learned so much about breastfeeding.
Really?
Yeah, I don't have any kids, just friends. Like, this is how it is.
Yeah.
So, let's go back to the bowling alley, because you were saying that he was being a bit harsh, and there was something I think that she hit on, which is when she gets frustrated and she thinks that she doesn't need fixing. And it was a part of me that's like, I wonder if that's how Aiden often feels when Kyle is there overcorrecting every little thing. Like that bad behavior that Kyle has with her, he also learned from helping Aiden, just like the constant correction of like, and your elbows go here and your hips go here, is because he's constantly doing like physical therapy and other things with Aiden. And I thought she really hits on something there that I think in the long run could probably help Aiden if she sticks around.
Yeah, I think so. I think I mean, that's one of the things about having two people in a, well, we'll call him a child, even though he's a teenager, but having two people in a child's life is that there is, there's light and shade between those two carers. There are different points of view and different ways of dealing with certain situations. And I've found in the past that with myself and my wife, one of us has modified the other one's reactions to something, and that's helped. So it must be. So maybe, yeah, when Rami talks about what's going to happen in the future, maybe by the time they do the boat ride and Kyle walks off and leaves Aiden with Sylvie, maybe he's beginning to sort of trust Sylvie more and think, yes, there are other ways of achieving what we want to achieve with Aiden, and perhaps with Sylvie, she has a bit more of a caring personality now, seemingly, than he does. He's more about the actions and the behavior, and we've got to do this, and we have to, when we see a film, we have to remember what's been in the film. But maybe he's learning now that she can be a positive influence with her relationship with Aiden.
Mm-hmm. I think Aiden will benefit from both. So, yeah. But again, in the scene, she's frustrated. I've been there when someone is like actually in bowling with my dad. Like they have to do it like this. It's like, oh, please just let me like play and stop. Like, okay, like, oh, please stop correcting me. But then to like deliberately gutter the ball, that's what I mean by there's something about it that's a little like childish, and like it's one thing to just like be annoyed and another one to like sabotage is a strong word, but just like have like a mini tantrum, like nah, like okay. Even as a kid, I didn't do that when my dad was annoying me about bowling. Like there's things where it's just like, I'm really glad we're watching Sylvie grow because she's very thoughtful and conscientious, and she feels very real, even though I know she's a fictional character. But it's there's a part of me that's just like, this is gonna be great for you. You're gonna grow up so much.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So, what about the pros?
I mean, I think perfect is a difficult word to use because it implies there were no problems at all. But I didn't see any problems with the pros, the writing style, because at no point did I get any author intrusion at all, which is kind of unusual. You always find, or you nearly always find, that there's a word or a phrase or there's something that sounds a bit clunky or just is, or you're not quite sure what the author's trying to say, and you think, what's the author trying to say, and brings you out of the story. But at no point did I have that. So the prose was very, very good.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was very easy to follow. Like I said, it kind of immersed me in the story, and I thought the dialogue was really well done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I for prose, I wrote lovely. I'm just loving her cadence. It just like flows, and it just sort of washes over you. And a lot of times there's all these rules about like being sparse and not using too many adjectives and not using too many adverbs, and she uses like whatever she wants, and it just flows because she has like I guess a good ear for cadence. And like I don't, at no point does it feel heavy. It just runs. It's like a stream. I love it.
Yeah, the pacing was spot on. The change of scene was in the right place. This is a bit
I didn't even notice it. Change of scene.
No.
It just Ooh, so
that's...
for aspiring writers listening to this, if you want to get pacing down like this, it's just like a little A river is the
Yeah.
best way to put it, just like a meandering at a constant pace.
Yeah. Yeah. And yet there's tension in there. There's conflict. There's all the good stuff that writers are supposed to put into stories, but it never disturbs the flow of the river. It's just, you know, yes, it winds, yes, it sort of bubbles over stones and of conflict and things like that, but you just carry on consuming it. It's lovely. It is lovely.
And there's even some moments of light. Like I laughed out loud when Aiden says to Donnie, because when they have the book, the Calvin and Hobbes book, and then Aiden's about to go bowl, and he says to Donnie, he's like, "It's mine, don't forget." And Donnie, who also has a head injury, says, "Can't promise anything," and they go ha ha ha, ha because they both have head injuries and they can't. They're forgetful. It just you know, it was lovely.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very good.
So, do we have anything else to add, or are we ready to rate it? I'm so excited for my game. So excited.
So you keep saying.
I know.
If it's portions of the brain, what does what? I'm out of here.
No, it's not.
Okay. Yeah. Rating. I don't know. I guess someone else go if we're rating.
I'm gonna go with a 5.5. I know I should give it a 6. I almost did, but I didn't. While I loved it, and everyone should read it, and it flows lovely, and like it was just like such a nice break from the day. Like reading this was just like, oh, what a nice pause. It wasn't like one of those stories where I'm like screaming at my friends like in Messenger, like you have to read this story. Oh my god, right? It didn't take me quite there, so 5.5.
Rami's thinking.
Well, no. Oh, I thought you wanted to go. I also settled on 5.5, but what I was thinking about is the reason for the 5.5, and I'll go with Anais's reason.
Yeah, it's funny that was my problem. I was trying to think. I like it so much. It's such a readable story, and yet there are so many messages in it. Is it worth a 6? Is it? And no, it isn't. It isn't. Not quite. Which is it, but it's a very strong 5.5. If we did more subdividers of units, I'd be up at sort of 5.8 or something, 5.9. But we're not. So 5.5.
Okay, 5.5. 5.5's across the board. That's amazing. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Game time. I'm so excited. Okay, what are you submitting?
I'm going to submit Laughing and Turning Away by Patrick Holloway. I think it's a carve book.
The story I'm submitting is Wyatt Thirst by Brendan Bowles.
Okay, so in this story, there was a head injury with horrible consequences. But sometimes there's a head injury and you come out of it with like some kind of superpower, like some new gift you couldn't do before, like a savant, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read to each of you a story of a head injury that had superpowers when the person woke up. And you have to tell me, did I make it up or is that true?
Wow.
Yeah. So am I full of crap? Or is it true or false? Or is this true? I have 6. Okay. So, I didn't come up with the tiebreaker, so no tie. So,
okay.
All right. I'll start with Gerald because he's first on my screen. So here's your first little story. In 1991, Adrian Copeland, a landscaper, fell off a patio construction site. After surviving a severe concussion and brain hemorrhage, she discovered that her sense of taste was acutely sensitive. She could individually taste any ingredient in any meal and at the right proportion so that she could then recreate the meal on her own. She quit her job and became a renowned chef.
False.
False. Hey! That was get you. All right.
You made all that up? That's impressive.
That's very good.
Made it up. All right. Rami. In 1994, Tony Sikoria, an orthopedic surgeon, was struck by lightning. He survived, but soon afterwards he felt an inexplicable compulsion to listen to classical piano music. Then he could play it, and he had never played the piano before. He even bought some sheet music and began composing his own complicated pieces.
True?
True.
Really? Wow.
Really, yep. Guy never played piano, woke up, magical. Just great at it.
Wow.
People, yeah.
Very good.
Gerald.
Yeah.
As a toddler, Alonzo Clemens suffered a traumatic head injury after falling onto the bathroom floor. Left with an IQ of just 40, he grew up in a home for people with learning difficulties, but he showed an incredible ability to sculpt. He made intricate models of animals using whatever materials he's had. Whatever, clay, dirt, soap, doesn't matter. His works have sold for as much as $35,000.
That's true.
That is true.
Wow.
Have you heard that story?
No, it just sounded true, though.
Okay, Rami.
Hmm.
In 1967, Brooklyn boxer Tony DiMatteo was knocked out by a blow to the head so hard he was in a coma for 5 days. When he woke up, he could speak fluent Italian, which his grandmother spoke, but he had never really learned. He soon recalled English, but never lost his ability to speak Italian, which was accompanied by a strong desire to write poems in Italian, often about his passion, boxing.
False.
False! Guys, you're gonna tie.
Oh, no.
You tie, we're rock, paper, scissoring it. Okay. All right, Gerald.
Yeah.
Okay. In 2005, after 20 years of unemployment due to just terrible injuries and bad luck, a computer engineer named Ken Walters had a stroke. At the hospital, he wrote to a nurse, and as he was writing, he noticed his hand just started doodling of its own volition, something he was never prone to doing. He began drawing digitally and became a world-renowned digital artist and was paid handsomely by video game production companies.
False.
True. That one is true. Oh. Okay,
Well done.
so Rami, you have to get this one right to win, or rock, paper, scissors.
Okay.
All right. In 1886, a French doctor and medical researcher of the Sorbonne, named Guy Biscand, was trampled by horses while on holiday. When he woke, he could suddenly perform advanced mathematical calculations and elaborate theoretical functions. Though he was primarily a biologist, he contributed to various sciences, including physics and chemistry, by helping other scientists crack difficult equations that had stumped them for years.
False.
False. It is false. I made that up. You guys are tied. No, actually, I'll just find where. What should I do? Should I just make up another one? You'll know it's false.
So was that true?
That was false. He said false.
Oh, was it? Okay.
That was false.
And it was false. Okay.
Yeah, I made it up. Did it sound true?
Yeah. Well, when you struggled with the Sorbonne, I thought, oh.
You did that on purpose.
Yeah, sneaky.
Sneaky. Trust nothing.
Wait, so give it to Gerald.
Why?
Gerald, why?
Because I don't like to host it.
I know. Rami always does hate hosting it because he has to come up with a game.
Yeah.
Right,
if you like.
All right, let's go with Gerald's. But
Okay,
I'm glad. I want to know if I tricked anyone or our listeners. Anyway.
So we are reading next time Laughing and Turning Away by Patrick Holloway.
But before you go, tell us a tale of head trauma that led to superpowers in the comment section at literaryroadhouse.com. It doesn't have to be true, and we're going to guess if you're reporting the news or pulling our leg. Want to avoid talking about breastfeeding and colic? We only talk about literature on Twitter at LitRoadhouse. Or maybe you can give your girlfriend something else to talk about by asking them to join the Literary Roadhouse Book Club with you. It's a monthly show that discusses full fiction novels. Lastly, have you been enjoying our regular publishing the past couple months? So have we! Help nurse Literary Roadhouse back to good health at patreon.com/literaryroadhouse. Every bit helps. And as always, share this podcast with the teenagers who need a little more TLC in your life. Until next time, read a good story.